The question is, are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you. Yeah.
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is a Tuesday night. We are rolling on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. It is episode 99 of the Throwdown with Matt, and tonight we are throwing down with Toronto-based pro wrestler Bad Nanny. How you doing tonight?
I would just like to say thank you for having me here, and it's an honor to be on the 99th show, just like Wayne Gretzky, the great one, number 99. What more can you ask for?
Absolutely. And Gretzky was amazing. He truly was. Coming from the South, we're not really a hockey area exactly, but you know what? A few years ago, a minor league hockey team moved into the arena in our county, and I went to a few hockey games and absolutely fell in love with the sport. Absolutely love watching hockey. There's still a lot about it I don't understand, but it's just a fun, fast, action-packed game to watch. So
yeah, for sure.
And, for those of you that are watching this live, if you have any questions or comments, just go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we'll either tackle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. Yep. So we'll go ahead and start with the first and most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling? And what is the story of how you ended up participating in the sport we all love?
Okay, so my story is a bit unique because most ladies don't start professional wrestling at the age of 47 because, as my husband said, you don't bounce very good when you get older. But you know what? I proved him wrong, and I'm still doing it. So I turned 51 in January. And I still see myself as a beginner wrestler because my life is quite busy. I travel a lot for family, so I have to turn down a lot of shows, which means I'm not getting as much ring time as some of the other wrestlers. Completely my fault for turning them down. But I started when I was 47. My husband and I own 3 sports therapy clinics called Active Relief Center. And we had a guy come into the clinic, and he was like kind of like big and muscular. And I was like, "Oh, you must be a power lifter, because that's what I do in my spare time, is I'm a Team Canada power lifter." And he was like, "No, I'm not a power lifter. I'm in the gym all the time, but I'm a professional wrestler." And I was like, "What do you mean you're a professional wrestler?" Like, I didn't know that there was like this whole other world out there of professional wrestling in Ontario. I had no clue. And he was like, "Oh," he said, "I got a show in 6 weeks. I'll put you in." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know how to wrestle." So we did three practices. He said, all I
Mhm.
want you to do is you're going to walk into the ring, wear your Team Canada singlet for powerlifting, your gold medals from nationals and worlds and that type of thing, and go in, pick up a guy and slam him. That's all you got to do. I was like, okay. So day of the show, music cues. I walk out, all my stuff on, take off my medals, hang it over the corner post, get in the ring, go to pick up the guy. Our timing's off because I really don't know what I'm doing. So I go to half pick him up and he was like, and I completely fall backwards with him. And I was horrifically embarrassed. I totally embarrassed myself. And I thought I screwed up the only time I would ever be able to get into a ring. And I said to myself, if I'm ever going to get into a professional wrestling ring again, I need to go to wrestling school. So I found a wrestling school and I went to a couple of classes, but I was also in the middle of training for a high-end powerlifting competition at the same time too. So I only went to 2 classes. The classes that I went to, I was the only female, and the guy they paired me up with was like, 6'4", 300 pounds. And here I'm like,
Big,
10-year-old,
big dude.
5'3", 145 pounds. And I was like, oh, I really love this. I really want to learn, but I couldn't see myself progressing in that type of environment. And my husband said, if you ever find an all girls wrestling class, he said, I will support you 100%. So I found one. And so I go to Off the Rope School in Kitchener, Ontario, every Thursday night. And it's an all girls class. And I've been there now for 3 years, and it's been great. I'm wrestling against ladies my own size, or some of them are smaller and some of them are bigger. There is a 12-year-old in my class, a very advanced 12-year-old, another girl who's 16, 17, 18 years old, 2 girls in their 30s, and me at 51 years old in the wrestling ring with them.
That is awesome.
Well, my kids think I'm absolutely insane, and they're probably not wrong, because who in their right mind has like a professional career during the day and on the weekends is professional wrestling, and a very unique character, I might say, that I professional wrestle as. I'm not just your average looking wrestler, I'd say.
No.
No.
That has actually been one of the really fascinating parts of doing these, is finding out what a lot of the wrestlers, air quotes, day jobs are. I've had everything. I've had everything from attorneys to doctors to crane operators to all over the place. I mean, and that's just really interesting, because I mean, wrestling literally encompasses all walks of life, and it's pretty neat. Yeah.
I started out my professional career. I started out as with Canadian Mental Health Association. So I was the director of a mental health clinic for about 16 years. But while I was, my day job was mental health, my passion was politics. And we won't get into politics, but it was my goal was to go on to be a provincial politician or like a state politician in the States. And you had to do public speaking all the time. So I would speak in front of like a few times I spoke in front of a few thousand people on stage, and I was terrified to do it. But every time you did something like that, it made you more and more confident to be able to be in front of lots of people and have no problem with it. I also used to act in live dinner theaters, which was, we had, your script to you had to act out your story and your script, but a lot of that was ad-libbing and talking to the audience members and like, saying foolish things to them to like get them help entertain them while you're serving their dinner and then being on stage. So that type of background like really helped me with my wrestling, because it is a lot of ad-libbing, and it is, you know, like jiving at the audience if you're a heel, or as a baby face, getting them to like have sympathy for you and cheer for you, and like what are you going to do to like gain that attention. So having that such a theatrical background really helped. The other thing that's really helped me with my wrestling career is that, like I said earlier, I'm a Team Canada powerlifter. So in Sweden, I placed second in the world for my age and weight class in powerlifting.
Wow.
So I had a very athletic background as well. The only drawback, though, if you know anything about powerlifting, it's bench press, squat, and deadlift. So everything is like tight, set, and go. And it's 1 rep. So my cardio is not very good, because I've got like 20 years of training in the gym where everything is just like tight and then go for it, right? So in the ring, you have to be like fluid, and you have to like go with the flow. And like sometimes I think, oh my God, I nailed that in practice today. And then I videoed it so I can go home and show my husband like how good I did in class. And then I take the video home and I'm like, holy crap, I move like a cinder block. I do not flow good at all. So that's something I've had to overcome and had to work on. And that's something I have to work on a lot, because you take 30 years of moving your body in a certain way, and then you're trying to like change it. It's been so hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, you know, at Off the Ropes, who actually is your trainer?
Yes. So Vanessa Douglas, who wrestles as the Blood Countess, Sabrina Kyle, she is usually a heel. She's been wrestling since I think she started when she was 14 or 15, and now she's in her mid-30s. She's traveled all over the States, all over Canada, wrestling. Now she owns the first female-owned wrestling school in Canada. So she owns the school, and her partner, Jeff Black, is also a wrestler. And they have the female-only classes, co-ed classes, and kids classes, which are just absolutely hilarious to watch.
Oh, I'm sure.
Class is just wrapping up before the female class starts, and these kids love it. And they're just so lucky to have a school that they can partake in, because most kids don't have that opportunity to do that.
Right. So tell us about Bad Nanny. How did the concept come about? You know, I'm one of my recent guests actually brought up a question, and I've incorporated it into my little list of questions, and that is, you know, before you get too in depth on Bad Nanny, try to sum her up in 5 words.
Oh, 5 words. 5 words. Okay. Cranky, creative, old-fashioned, nasty, lovable. There you go. Yeah.
Well done.
That was a hard one.
Yeah. So tell us about her. Where did she come from?
So that first show I was put into, invited to come in as that guest Team Canada singlet. So you're walking in more as like, you know, a strong female power lifter type of person. You go in, pick somebody up, slam them. But it was too close to me. Like, that was me going in there. That wasn't a character. That was me. So when I started going to wrestling school, I started like in March or whatever it was. And the owner, Jeff, he's a good character wrestler too. Like, he's got a good gimmick, good stage presence, and he's good at making people laugh and getting the audience engaged. And he was like, so have you thought about your, you know, what your wrestling name's going to be, your ring name? I'm like, yeah, it's Bad Nanny. And he went, what is that? I said, well, She's an old lady. She's kind of senile. She wears an old ratty pink house coat that says Bad Nanny on the back. She has a cane that she comes in with because she's mobility's not very good. And when she takes off the robe, underneath is an old ratty singlet with a pair of Depends on over it because she's
Nice.
completely insane.
I love it.
So when I come in, my music cues and like the announcer's like, she loves bingo and going to the Legion. Her pet peeves are, and it'll be something about the other wrestler. Her pet peeves are blah, blah, blah. And she hails from Sunnyvale Retirement Home. She's everybody's favorite grandmother. She's Bad Nanny. And then this crowd, like the curtains open up and I come out. And my fans who know me, they think it's just great. But then there's all these other fans who've never heard of Bad Nanny before. And they're like waiting for this, like wrestler to come out. And there's like, the cranky old lady with a cane and hobbling over to the stage, over to the ring. I always get an audience member to help me boost me up into the ring because I'm too old to get in there myself. And and I got my house coat on. So once I get in and I take my house coat off and I take it off all like seductively and I throw the house coat and then they see that I'm actually wearing an adult diaper on over my singlet, the crowd loses their minds.
I'm sure.
They love it. So, but here's why I decided to dress up as a cranky old gross lady is because my husband said to me, he said, I don't want you to be a sexy wrestler. I said, oh, don't worry, honey. I'm not going to be sexy. So don't worry. It's not going to be sexy. So I put my hair up in a crazy bun with big pink lips and like bright blue 1980s eyeshadow. And it gives me a lot to work with. I can be very, very creative. And when I make my promotional videos before a match, it could be like Bad Nanny's baking in the kitchen and she's making cookies for her opponent and it's laced with X-Lax and holy water, like just foolish stuff like this. And then my audience who follow me on Instagram, they're like, oh, I hope you give Revna a taste of her own medicine and give her some of those cookies. So then when I get in the ring, in my pocket is like a couple of like, those are big, massive chocolate chip cookies are huge. I'm like, hey, Revna, I made you some cookies. And then she takes them and she says to the audience, should I eat them? Should I not eat them? Should I eat them? And they're like, audience is going back and forth whether she should eat these cookies. And I'm all excited, hoping she's going to eat them because they're laced with X-Lax. But of course, she doesn't eat them. But you get to be so creative. You get to be so creative with what you're doing, and you can ham up the old lady stuff. And like it's just a lot of fun. Like you just get to be creative and foolish, and really, at the end of the day, it's because I like to make myself laugh. And if anybody else thinks it's funny, that's bonus. But if I think it's funny,
yeah, that's what matters. And at the end of the day, that's what wrestling is all about: entertaining people, distracting people from their everyday,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, have you been a lifelong fan of professional wrestling, or how has your fandom worked?
Okay, so when I was growing up, we had one channel on our TV, so that was it, and it wasn't WWE wrestling or anything like that way back then. It was Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. And these were like Killer Carl Krupp and the Cuban Assassin.
Oh, yeah.
And, like some local guys from the Maritimes that would wrestle. And they were on, TV and doing the circuit and everything. So when I was like, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, we thought this was great. A guy comes in and beats another guy with a square shovel. I mean, like, what kid wouldn't love that? It was wacko and crazy. It was lovely. But then, like, during my university years, I didn't watch wrestling. and then started watching wrestling again in my early 20s, like WWF wrestling and that type of thing. But when I started working with mental health, we had a guy, and he knows this story because I tell him that he's the reason why I got involved in wrestling again. Is he was obsessed with wrestling, and that's all he wanted to talk about. And the other staff didn't have the patience for listening to his wrestling stories all the time. I'm like, listen, this guy needs someone to talk to about wrestling. So I started watching wrestling again so I could go to work and talk to him about wrestling. And so then that got me more involved again. And then that at that time it was Mick Foley. And I just love Mick Foley. Anything like the character type of wrestling. I don't like the bloody stuff, to be honest, but like the character stuff and the foolish stuff and the sock and all that stuff. I thought was great. But then, we do have indie wrestling on my island, but they were never coming to my end of the island. So we're about an hour and a half away from the city and very, very rural. So I contacted the owner of that wrestling promotion and asked him if he would come and put a show on up for us. I said, we would promote it. Our mental health clients would run the canteen and like take the tickets at the door for you. And he actually came up and he put a wrestling show on for my community, my small community of 1,100 people. And it was great. And so then I started taking my kids to his shows in Charlottetown, and we'd spend the night in a hotel to go watch these indie shows. And I said to him, do you ever have girl wrestlers? And he said, no. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, do you ever train girl wrestlers? And he's like, no, because he didn't own a wrestling school. He just had a promotion. So when I came to Ontario, and I had been here for about 5 or 6 years, when that wrestler came in to my sports therapy clinic and said that he was a professional wrestler, I was like, oh, this is really cool. And that he opened the doors for me to get into wrestling. Because if he would have just said, oh, I got a show coming up, I'll give you some tickets and you can come watch, I would have thought that was great. But I would never have thought that I would be able to actually be in a ring. So he really opened those doors for me. And Bad Nanny actually isn't for everybody. A lot of people want that traditional girl wrestler to go in, look pretty and go in and slam people around and do a really good job in the ring. Bad Nanny is more of that, comedy character wrestling. But you got to keep in mind, I'm 51 years old. I'm not going to jump off the top ropes and do some crazy flip and do all that stuff. So I get to use my character. So when I do like, last Friday I had to do like 3 suplexes in a row, and like the audience was like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. And it's like, yeah, because I am an older lady, like, but sometimes I do think that my brain thinks I'm 25. So when I'm in class with the young girls, I think that I can do what they can do. And then Vanessa, my trainer, would be like, Natasha, do you want to try that? And I'm like, yes. I'll always try something once. And then I'll gauge, am I going to hurt me or am I going to hurt them? Okay, I think I'll just try it once.
Yep. So you mentioned that, it sounds like your husband is very, very supportive of this. You said the rest of your family kind of thinks you're nuts.
Yeah.
In general, though, I'm guessing your family actually is pretty supportive of this.
Yes, they are. My whole family lives in Prince Edward Island. I live in Ontario, so I moved to Ontario 9 years ago. So they don't get to see. They see the clips of my wrestling. They follow my Instagram and all that stuff. But last summer was the first time that my mom and dad were 76 years old, and my kids and their spouses and my friends and my extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins. I had 30 people come to my wrestling show when I wrestled in PEI. And
wow.
a big heart from heart moment for me was my son came up after me and gave me a big hug, and he's like, "I've never seen you wrestle before, Mom. This is really cool. You're doing really good." And it was really cool when your kids are proud of you. So they're
Oh,
proud
for
of me
sure.
for what I'm doing, but at the same time, they do think I'm a little crazy.
Well, yeah, but aren't we all? You
Yes,
know, to one
yeah,
degree or another. I mean,
and you have to be. But my persona, my being is an extrovert anyways. So being extroverted in the ring isn't a huge leap for me. But a lot of the wrestlers that I hang out with, um, they're like extroverted in the ring, but you get them out of the ring, they're quiet. They're, very reserved and quiet and shy, and they're not going out up to people, strangers, like in the superstore to talk to them. And so when I go out with them, I'm like, "Ah, hey, how you doing?" They're like, "What is wrong with you?" But having that extroverted personality has helped me as well. But it's interesting that the contrast of seeing people what they're like in the ring, and then seeing them backstage, and they're all like calm and quiet and demure, and they're like, talking with their match. But it's just interesting to see the difference in the character, the in-ring character versus the real life character.
oh, for sure. So, outside of wrestling,
Yeah.
what athlete inspires you the most and why?
Uh, I always had a quote from Pujols. Am I saying his name right? The baseball player?
Albert Pujols?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and what was his quote? I had it on my desk for years. Uh, if you if you finish second, you haven't done enough work. And I
Hmm.
always had his quote on my desk because I was always competing in something like strongman, fitness, powerlifting, anything. So I always tried to work the hardest to try to get that first place, which sometimes doesn't always work out,
No,
but you have to try.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Well, very cool. Yeah, it's funny you were mentioning your admiration for Mick Foley. I am right there with you. That guy is amazing, and probably in my top 5 wrestling moments of all time was when I forget which year it was, but the Royal Rumble where all 3 of his personas were in the Rumble. So he came in
Yeah.
as Cactus Jack, he came in as Mankind, and then he came in as Dude Love later. And
Mm.
I just thought that was hysterically funny. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. That's
and
pretty
just
good.
very very creative, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, and that's a big part of wrestling is just recreating yourself all the time, all the time.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
yeah.
and another Canadian that's been very good at reinventing himself over the years has been Chris Jericho. Um,
Mm.
he has managed over the years to really reinvent his persona and keep himself relevant. And he's managed to carve out a nice career. And the thing that I just think is especially cool about him is, as a kid, his 2 ambitions were to be a wrestler and a rock star, and he's managed to do both. I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah. So, tell us about your very first match.
Okay, so when I started going to Off the Ropes,
Mhm.
and I walk in and they see me walking in for the first time, and they're like, "Who is this?" And she's not
Yeah.
gonna last. But so I started like in, I don't know, like March, whatever it was. And they told me, Natasha, there's lots of different avenues that you can be involved in wrestling. You could be a manager, You could be a ring announcer. You could be a ref. Like, and I was like, I'm going to wrestling school. I want to be in the ring. That's why I'm here. I want to be in the ring. And they're like, okay. and then so I was only at wrestling school for probably a month or two. And before at that time, they said to me, Natasha, it's going to take you 2 years to get ready before you can go into the ring. And I'm like, 2 years? That is not enough time for me to train to get into the ring for a match. Oh my God, holy, 2 years is not long enough. And then 2 months later, they're like, yeah, so what are you doing in May? Because we're going to put you in a show. I was like, okay. So I barely started wrestling school, but because I had already come up with a character, a gimmick, and like had my persona that I wanted in the ring already ready to go, they're like, let's do it. So I was in a tag team match with Jeff and Vanessa, who owned the wrestling school, and one of the other students. And I wasn't even in the ring. I was at first. I was advertised as the fourth person in the tag team match as the question mark. So
you were the mystery person.
I was the mystery person. I'm sitting in the audience with a house coat on and a clear shower cap over my head and a cane in the audience. And none of the audience members even questioned it. No one gave me a weird look. I was sitting in the audience dressed up like this, and nobody even said we said boo. My husband's sitting next to me, so he knows what's going on. So Jeff gets in the ring, and he's my tag team partner. And he's like, yeah, so I've got someone, because the other tag team had a younger girl. She was like 19, 20. And he's like, I'm going to bring out someone who's going to show you a thing or two, and she's going to beat your ass, and she's going to do all this stuff. And there's nothing better than being beat by your grandma. Bad Nanny, get in here. And I'm like, jump up to the audience and like go into the ring. And then we had to do like a whole tag team thing. And it was like a learning experience because she picked me up and choke slammed me, and I did not tuck my chin. And I was laying on the mat, like kind of a little dizzy after that because I screwed up my own move, but whatever. And it was like my husband's like, oh my God, this is just so up her alley. It's unbelievable. So it was good. It was good. It was a good first experience in the ring in a match.
No doubt. So when you were out in the audience and nobody was really batting an eye, even though you were dressed the way you were, did you have your adult diaper on and everything, or
underneath my robe?
Okay.
So they didn't see it.
I was like,
I'm just sitting there with a house coat on and a clear shower cap, and like, nobody cared.
Yeah.
As if I was normal.
Yeah. So we've heard about the first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of, if you can narrow it down.
That's so my first singles match was very memorable, and it was against another lady who was going to our school, so we had lots of time to prepare for it. And I come out of the curtain and my music cues. I come out with my cane and everybody's cheering for Bad Nanny, and I look up and there is a fan who's got a sign, and it said Bad Nanny's always in a pissy mood. Another sign said something about Bad Nanny and PEI, and that's where I'm from. PEI.
Oh, that's cool.
Is 17-hour drive from where this wrestling event was. And when I saw PEI, I was like, what? Because like a lot of people in Ontario, like they wouldn't really know I'm from PEI. So I look up and it is my best friend who drove 17 hours to surprise me at my match.
Oh, that is
my husband didn't even
amazing.
know it was coming. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like that that was very, very cool. That was super cool and amazing. But the match itself too, it went off like it was perfect. Like I didn't make a mistake. Everything was good. It went so well. And my opponent was a very good person for me to have my first singles match with. So that's been good. And that's been opening the doors for now all my matches are singles matches. So yes, that's been cool. My first singles match was pretty cool. Yeah.
Very cool. And you know, when you've got somebody like that you've got good chemistry with, and you know that's where the magic happens. You know.
Yes. And I think we have to talk about what makes Bad Nanny even more of a standout wrestler. So I put a full package of chocolate pudding in that diaper before I go out.
Nice. That's even better.
So sometimes like my opponent will get distracted by the ref, or the ref will be talking to her, and I whip her around while she's distracted. I like slowly take off the diaper and then whip it up so that everybody in the audience can see that it is chock full of chocolate pudding, and they start screaming because the audience isn't expecting that. I've been wrestling with my diaper full of chocolate pudding for the last, like 10 minutes. So it's full of chocolate pudding, and then I whip her around and I take it and I face wash her with the chocolate pudding.
Nice.
She can't see. She's blinded by the chocolate pudding, stumbling around. Kick her in the stomach. Boom, suplex her, pin her, win the match.
Nice.
But sometimes that doesn't always happen because you can't do the same thing over every match because then it loses its pop, right? So sometimes it ends up getting me in the face. And one of these times, it's going to be the ref who gets it in the face by accident. We'll see.
Yeah. That would be a great moment.
Yeah, maybe not for the ref, but
ref bump into the diaper. I love it. So, did you tell your opponent beforehand what was going to happen, or was it, or did you completely surprise your opponent with the diaper full of pudding?
Well, you kind of have to give them a little warning, because some wrestlers will be like, I don't want that's just going to make me look stupid. I don't want that.
Right.
But I haven't had anyone yet
refuse.
Yeah. Well, they know me. They know that that's part of my character, that's part of my gimmick. But sometimes if I'm the heel, it gets twisted around and then I might get it. Or maybe it just gets like tossed around and thrown into the audience. And one time, so I face washed her with the poopy diaper, take it, and then I always throw it into the audience. And when I threw that diaper into the audience, it was like the parting of the Red Sea.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, the audience and they're like trying to get away from this like crap loaded diaper. So did I say that my kids think a little wacko? It's usually the loaded diaper part.
Yeah, I can see that. So what has been your most unusual encounter with a fan?
Yes, so I was just actually talking to my daughters about this today. I'm very, like I said, I'm very creative. So I put lots of stuff out there on Instagram. My videos are like little creative videos, and like just all the time. It really taps into my creativity, and I love it. And it makes me laugh, I'm happy. But you never know who sees this stuff. Like my old brain thinks, oh, 20 people liked my video. Oh no, 1,500 people watched it. You know what I mean? Like you forget how many people see stuff, or they share it, or it goes someplace else. So anyways, I got a fan that sent me a message saying, yeah, I like to wear adult diapers too. And I was like, Um,
Oh.
so I
Wow.
clicked on his profile, and it's like a fetish person who wears adult diapers as a fetish, and I'm like, no, we're not on the same page here, buddy. No,
Wow.
I said, no, this is part of a. This is to be like gross and funny as part of like a wrestling gimmick,
Yeah,
and
this isn't real
that
world.
fan he didn't write back, which is good. I didn't want to write. I didn't want him to write anymore.
Wow.
So yeah, that was probably the most interesting fan that connected, and I was like, okay.
Gotcha. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that that just has really stuck with you over the years, and just a match that you really appreciate for a particular reason.
Well, my trainer actually gets me to watch a lot of Moolah
Oh
versus
yeah.
Wendy matches, and I'm like, okay, I can see it. I can see it. Or Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Oh yeah.
So that type of wrestling, because I don't move fast, I need to watch wrestling that's more like me. Watching like luchador wrestling, oh, that's cool, but it's like I can't learn from that because there's no way I'm doing that. so I really like the Moolah and Wendy wrestling matches. Those are my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, having been a fan as long as I have, I grew up basically watching wrestling in the territory days, and I love the stuff that they're doing today. But but I like a lot of the older school where it was more. It wasn't quite as fast paced. There was more mat wrestling. There wasn't as much of the aerial stuff as is being done now. And a match that I just I recommend to anybody. It's from 1989. It was an I Quit match between Ric Flair and Terry Funk.
Okay.
And it is a master class in storytelling. It's not a fast-paced match, but it tells such a good story. And and in a lot of ways, with these fast-paced, exciting matches now, I almost feel like some of the storytelling that can be done within a match, in terms of the physical storytelling of a match, in some ways is kind of a lost art. There's definitely storylines going on, but using the match itself to tell a story
Yeah.
you don't see that as much these days. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. I just
Yeah. 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 My match Friday night against Bruce Thunderstein
Mhm.
was it was an interesting match because he's also a huge character. And we were making promotional videos against each other online leading up to the show
Oh yeah.
where his character is like a greasy salesman, like an
Mhm.
infomercial type of guy, and he sells Bruce juice, which is like looks like a Heinz bottle of ketchup. So it's part of his gimmick.
Yeah.
So we were making this back and forth that me as a senior, I was really upset that he was going into the senior home selling his Bruce juice to all the senior citizens and they can't afford it and it actually gives them diarrhea. So
Ah.
during the match, he took his bottle of Bruce juice and made me drink it, which is what made me poop my diaper. So there
There
was
you
like a
go.
storyline leading up to it. And then he kept giving me like stomach shots to make me, like, oh. And then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not feeling so good. And then there was like a storyline. So we created our own storyline leading up to the match, And then throughout the match, the storyline was coming to lead to a poopy diaper. So
Nice.
yeah. And like,
so this may be kind of a unique question, but
okay.
and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent? Who would you love to have the opportunity to get in the ring with?
I see. I really like some of the indie wrestlers here in Canada, and we have a wrestler named Pretty Ricky who's amazing character type of wrestler. So I would have to say him. You should look him up.
I will. I'll definitely look him up and hopefully have him on the show.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what is your favorite move? What is something that you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that besides the luchador flippy stuff? Is there a move that you won't do, or you would at least rather not do?
So my favorite move is suplex or fisherman suplex. I really like to do a lot of the power moves. If I'm not wrestling as Bad Nanny, my other wrestling name is Carolyn Monroe, and I wrestle in my Team Canada singlet, and I've had two full matches last summer as that character. So it's because I'm supposed to go in looking strong, and as a power lifter, I do a lot of the power moves. Put the lady up over my shoulder, squat her 5 times, dump her, pin her, world's biggest slam, that type of thing. But suplex is my favorite. Yeah,
gotcha.
I think that's my favorite move. My least favorite?
Yeah.
I was really intimidated when it was suggested that I climb up onto the second ropes and do a superplex just from the second ropes. And I was like, oh, hell no. Oh, no. I am not doing that. I'm not doing that. And like, maybe if I practice it like onto a big crash mat just to get used to it for a while, and then the crash mat goes from this thick to this thick to this thick to the mat. But I'm not trying to get into the WWE. I don't need to be doing like super crazy moves that might hurt me because, I just don't. I don't need to do that.
Right. It's funny. I mean, realistically, this will probably never happen, and really, I probably don't actually really want it to. But a bucket list item of mine is, part of me wants to get put through a table.
Can be arranged. That can totally.
Yeah, I'm sure it could.
You're talking about bucket list. That could happen tomorrow.
Yeah. So, what hurts right now?
You mean other than my ego? Usually it's the back of my neck to my mid back. That's usually what gets tight. But fortunately for me, I work at a sports therapy clinic. And actually, my husband is a sports therapy chiro, non-traditional chiropractor. So he comes to the shows with me. He's not a huge fan of wrestling. He's a fan of my wrestling, but not like just sitting there as a fan. So he treats the wrestlers backstage and then comes out to watch me wrestle, and then treats the wrestlers when they're done their shows and that type of thing. So I'm physically in good hands. I've got lots of treatment. But it is cool that we can partner that way, that I get to do something that I love to do. He gets to do something that he loves to do. And then he gets to know all the wrestlers and gets to see what it's like backstage, because if you've never been backstage before, it's pretty interesting back there. It's
Oh, no
yeah,
doubt. Yeah.
it's a cool spot to be.
For sure, for sure. Um, what is the most significant injury that you've suffered either wrestling or training?
Um, well, to begin with, my husband has always told me that I cannot be a high-end power lifter and a professional wrestler at the same time. And I didn't believe him. And then I proved him right. And I'll tell you why. I was training for a competition a year ago last January. And like this is a lot of time and effort getting ready to compete in a powerlifting competition. And I was still professional wrestling. 2 weeks before I was to compete, we were doing this new move, and they're like, okay, Natasha, now you're gonna like roll back on your shoulders and like do like a backwards roll. And I'm like, backwards on my shoulders? Where is it back there? And I was like looking backwards instead of tucking my chin.
Yep.
And I crunched my neck. I heard everything crunch. And what happened
Ugh.
was whatever I did back here shut off a muscle in here someplace. And my bench press, instead of being 175 pounds in that competition, was 135 pounds because I messed up myself right before I competed. So I was like,
Mm,
oh, then you know when you have to tell your spouse that they're right? He was
yeah.
right. He was right.
I have
So
to do that more often than I than I care to admit, but but it's all good, you know.
uh,
But you know, it's funny. For a number of years, a few years ago, I trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
mhm,
and
mhm,
and I was sparring with a guy, and it was just a freak thing. He posted off my chest to try to armbar me and ended up popping a rib head out. And I ended up having to go to a chiropractor to get the rib head back into place. And, you know, I
mhm,
had to
mhm,
basically take about 6 weeks or so off from training just to kind of let that heal and so
mhm.
it wouldn't come back out of place. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you know, just freak stuff happens,
yeah.
and you know, the 50s have been a strange time. Your body starts doing weird things. I've thrown my back out sneezing. You
Yeah,
know, it's yeah, the 50s has been unique so far.
yeah, 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 for sure, for sure.
So, knowing everything you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Mm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say that 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 it's okay. You're not always going to be this shy, and you've got a world waiting for you that you're just going to be uh, doing amazing things with your life. Because I was very shy when I was in school, and then started blossoming after university. But that shy little kid just needs to know it's okay. You're going to get there, and you're going to be loud, and you're going to be wearing a poopy diaper in front of lots of people. It's going to be great.
So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
I get quite nervous backstage, honestly. I do get quite
Mhm.
nervous. I still consider myself a green wrestler. So I like to have things, pretty thought out and planned out. Um, so there's less surprises for me. I'm learning to be more go with the flow and ad lib in the ring. But I like to be very prepared. So we'll go over it a few times backstage. But right before that curtain hits, oh, like I'm a bag of nerves. But I just kind of like pull myself in, and as soon as the music cues, though, Tasha's out. Natasha's not here. That's Bad
Yeah,
Nanny that's going out there. That's not Natasha anymore. And
yeah.
that's what I like about Bad Nanny. That's not me. That's cranky old lady who's half senile wearing a poopy diaper. Like, that's not
Yeah.
Natasha. So that's what helps big time. If I had to go out there more so dressed like me, like my Carolyn Monroe character is more like me. It's
Mhm.
not as it's not as interesting. Like, you don't get to do all that foolish stuff. It's more like traditional wrestling. But the Bad Nanny character, like as soon as that my music hits, or as soon as the announcers announcing she loves bingo and going to the Legion, and
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yep, this is me. And then I walk out of the curtain, and like the crowd loves it because it's unique, and that's what I like about a wrestling show, is that it's not all luchador, it's not all strong men hitting on each other, it's not you know uh, cute little girls flying around. Like, there's other things that can be. There's like the comedy sections too, and like you can
Oh, yeah.
if you got a little bit of everything, it's better for the audience. It's better
Oh,
for
for
the audience.
sure, for sure.
So my
And,
stuff is more comedy.
and especially with the rise of the indies, there is so much content out there, and there is literally a flavor of wrestling for anybody.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Hmm.
and with a character like Bad Nanny, you've got the opportunity to create so much lore, relating to the character. You can almost create a nannyverse. I mean, I mean, I would think that
Yeah.
with a character like that, really the sky is the limit as far as creativity goes.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. One of my videos is Bad Nanny goes to confession because she's had too many violent and horrible thoughts about her opponent.
that's awesome.
So there's like a little confessional booth. So yeah,
That's
it's
great.
it's just fun. It's just, you just make up new creative things to have fun with.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And my guest last night was an Atlanta area wrestler by the name of Jay Shaw. And
Okay.
I had told him about you, and like I said before we went on the air, he absolutely digs the concept of the gimmick and everything. And the question that he asked is, what are the pros and cons of wrestling in Canada? And have you ever wrestled in the US? And if not, do you plan to bring Bad Nanny to the United States?
I would love to be able to say at least once in my lifetime that I wrestled in the States. Like, I think that would be very, very cool thing to do, to put on your, like, as you talked about, your bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Especially a different type of wrestling character like Bad Nanny, to bring it to the States. I think that'd be fun. The pros and cons of wrestling in Canada. It depends on where you live, because when I was living on my island, there, like, I would not have had this opportunity. This opportunity would not exist if I was still living in Prince Edward Island. I love my province. I love PEI. I'm here right now in PEI.
Mhm.
But if I hadn't have moved to Ontario, those doors wouldn't have opened for me. I wouldn't be doing podcasts. I wouldn't be wrestling. I wouldn't have had this creative outlet. And it depends on where you are as to what opportunities can be open up to you, that can open up for you. And living in the golden horseshoe of Southern Ontario, there's a lot more opportunity than there is in rural Prince Edward Island.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And since this is part of a series, do you have a question you would like to pose to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you who the next guest is going to be. The question does not have to be particular to him,
Okay.
but Thursday night at 7 p.m., I've got episode 100. And I've
Ooh.
got a guy named Mercury Yaden, who is the founder and owner of Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling out in Denver.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So And he's been in the business for about 25 years, doing a plethora of different things within the business, everything from wrestling to promoting, et cetera, et cetera. So like I said, it doesn't have to be particular to him, but do you have a question you would like to pose?
I would like to ask have you ever done something in the ring that you regretted? And how did you feel about it? How did you talk yourself through that? How did you cope with it?
That is a really great question. How would you
Hard
answer
one.
that? How would you answer that? Have you ever done something in the ring that you've regretted?
Yeah. Actually, okay. So not Friday, but like 2 weeks before that, I was wrestling a lady and I was the baby face and she is a Viking warrior princess and she's a lot bigger than me and she's very scary and she screams a lot. So I pretended I was scared of her and I started running around the ring and she was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, probably should have told her what I was going to do before I did it. Like maybe, give her a little heads up.
Gotcha.
Anyways, my trainer was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I was pretending I was scared of her and I was running away from her. She's like, "You can't do that in the ring, Natasha." I'm like, or at least tell people you're going to do that. I was like, oops. Yeah, probably.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So then I felt really, really stupid and really bad about that. So when I wrestled Friday night and my trainer said I did a good job, I'm like, I really felt like I had to redeem myself because I really screwed up that last match. Not really screwed up, just like one part, just. So I felt like I had to redeem myself. So, but you learn, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's what life's all about.
Mm-hmm.
It is a journey of learning.
Yes, it is.
And the day you stop learning, you die.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
So we're pretty much at the end of things now. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Yeah, actually, we have a huge show on May 24th at the auditorium in Kitchener called The Odd. And we have Gangrel coming and
Oh,
Jason
nice.
Bateman coming to our show. And I guess there's a couple other guys. I can't remember their names right now. Sorry, guys. But it's a big show for us. And it's actually a fundraiser for Kids Ability. So it's a fundraiser for a kids organization. But this is like the biggest show that our school has put on. So it's going to showcase the students at our school, but we've got like some big names coming too. So we're pretty pumped and pretty excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah.
You are actually my third guest from Ontario.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Previously, I've had a guy by his ring name is Mr. Marvelous. His name is James Runyon. I've had
Okay.
him, and I've had another fellow by the name of Tomer Shalom.
Oh, yes, I know Tomer. I do know him.
Yeah. Israeli guy, really cool guy. I definitely had a good time with him.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I said, as far as what we've got going on tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but Thursday night at 7 Eastern, I've got Mercury Yaden. And this coming Monday, I guess the 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 101, actually with an Atlanta-based deathmatch wrestler by the name of Nathan Mowry. And he goes by the Kill Billy.
So, that's a good one.
Yeah. But before we wrap this up, do you have any final words to the audience?
Yeah, it's never too late to start wrestling. If it's something that you've always wanted to do, find a school and join and see what happens. We've had a lot of people join our school and love it, and then some people join it and they go, this actually isn't for me, because you know what? It's not for everybody, and it's hard work. It's hard work.
Yeah,
But
it
stick it
is.
out. Stick it out. Though you'll get used to the bumps. You'll get used to running the ropes and having, like, pretty much rope burn when you come home. You'll get used to it, and it's worthwhile. It's a pretty cool experience. And you only live once, so you might as well get her all in.
Absolutely. Well, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays, thank you for that. If you like what we have going here, do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for your time. This has just been a real treat, and all power to Bad Nanny.
That's right.
And we'll be back Thursday night. And in the meantime, be good to each other, love each